What's up, everyone? It's funny. I'm clicking on go live. Uh, What's up, Alexa? You with us today? What's going on, everyone? Today, we're going to be covering transferring from a California community college to a California State University or a University of California. So, hit up your friends. Let's uh, let's get going. Um, my name's they call me Professor G, but my name's Mauricio, and I've been a community college counselor for like 23, 24 years. I try to count as many students as possible that I've helped, and I think I exceeded 100,000, already just in my career. Mostly California community colleges, California state universities, universities of California, just helping people figure out the cheapest, most affordable way to earn a bachelor's degree. So today we're going to be covering transfer. So transfer is like the best way. I'm going to tell you right now, it is the best way to save thousands of dollars on a bachelor's degree. I'm just going to be honest. Okay. Even my kids, this is how serious it is. My kids, I have three of them. They're not going to university straight out of high school. They're going to community college first. They're going to save us thousands of dollars, and then they're going to transfer into whatever university they want, whether it be a CSU, a UC, or even a private school, whether it be in California or out of California. It doesn't matter. There is no way that I'm going to let my kids and their family get into debt, out an enormous amount of debt, because one of my kids, at 18 years old, wants to go to this university that costs $50,000 a year. That's, you know what, that kid needs, it's spoiled. You spoil them a little too much. Now, if the family has money, if the family's wealthy, great, do it. But if not, man, don't do it, because the dropout rate in college is so big that the odds are they might not finish. And if they don't finish, man, you just got into debt, a lot of it. Even if you get financial aid, even if you're doing all that. I mean, I got full financial aid. I come from a very poor family, and I got federal aid. I was able to go to school because they paid for some of it. And remember, financial aid never pays for all of it. They pay for some of it. You still got to come up with the significant number to actually finish college. So remember, transferring from a community college to a four-year university, it is the most affordable way to get a bachelor's degree, plain and simple. So please ask questions as I present, because there's a lot of information that's going to confuse you. But in a nutshell, what you do is anyone can go to a community college. As soon as you're 18, doesn't matter what your past is, doesn't matter what your background is. Like in California, we're an open access institution, and all community colleges in the nation are pretty much open access institutions. California seems to be the most affordable system of higher education in America. If you pay, okay, if you pay, meaning most of you are not going to have to pay, but if you have to pay, and if you have been living in California and you can claim California residency, the most they can charge you is 100, and well, actually, let me take that back. The most they can charge you is $46 per unit, per credit. Meaning, if I'm taking a psychology class and it's 3 credits, the most, if I'm a California resident, the most they can charge me is, 150 bucks for that class. That is the cheapest you will ever pay for any college, university level class ever. Okay. At the university, it's more expensive. Graduate school is more expensive, et cetera, et cetera. Going to private schools tends to be more expensive for the most part, but there are some exceptions. Again, what I'm here to show you is how do you transfer for community college, the most affordable way to get into a four-year university. So most students that I see, that I've seen in my entire career, over 100,000 students, most are going to end up in California. If they're going to community college, most are going to end up at a California State University campus. Okay. And it's because there's 23 of them. There's technically that's a lot. Okay. So that system, the CSU systems, has 23 campuses. The community college system has 115 campuses. Okay. So the community college system is ginormous. And then the next biggest university system is the California State University system that has about 23 schools. And then you have the University of California, the UC system, and that has officially 10 schools, but only 9 of them allow grant bachelor's degrees and higher. So, that 10th one, UC San Francisco, that one doesn't accept people at the bachelor's degree level. That's primarily a master's and doctorate degree level university. So you really only have, if you're coming from one of the 115 California community colleges and you're trying to stay in the public school system, you have UC and CSU public schools. That's where most, and I would say in my career working with this many students, I would say 85%, 90% will end up either at a CSU or UC. And of those that do transfer, you're going to end up 90% going CSU. So there are differences. So you got to have to know, like, do I go to a UC or should I go to a CSU on my major? It depends. Okay. The UC and the CSU, you got to do a little bit of research and you'll quickly find out that the true difference, and they all offer bachelor's degrees, they all offer master's degrees. Almost all of them offer now a doctorate degree of some sort. The true difference is the type of education. The University of California is a research one institution. So you're going to be a professional researcher when you get out of the UC, right? Whether you're studying English, whether you're studying microbiology, doesn't matter. You're going to be a researcher. So they are fully focused on research and adding knowledge to the study. Okay, so think about that for a second. And then the CSU system was really built for working professionals, meaning we need professionals to run colleges and universities. We need professionals to run companies. We need professionals, to build buildings. We need professionals to do all this other stuff. So the CSU, that's why there's so many more. That's the workforce. That's like a big significant chunk of the workforce where most people will get a bachelor's degree for a job that requires bachelor's or master's or higher degree. So, think of it that way. They both are great schools. They both can give you pretty much the same degrees. It's just one is focused this way, one research, and the other one's focused more hands-on practical, a little bit of research too, but more hands-on practical for training purposes to become a bachelor's degree holding individual. Nutshell, if you go into community college, what you want to do is you want to stay till you have 60 units. Okay. What that means is when you finish 60 units at the community college, which is about 20 classes, depending on your major. So I'm going to say 20 to 25 classes. If you're like engineering and you're that type of hardcore STEM major, you're going to do more. You're going to do like 25, 26, sometimes in 27 classes because you need a lot of math and physics and all these other science classes that have big units. But if you're any other major, business, psychology, history, whatever, English, communications, if it's a bachelor's degree, you're just going to do 60 units at a community college. And then what that means is that you're going to now transfer as an upper division transfer. Okay. So upper division. Okay. Here's some vocabulary. Upper division means junior, senior year. So if upper division means junior, senior, then lower division means freshman, sophomore. So what you're doing when you're going to community college, you're finishing all of your lower division requirements, which means you're finishing all the requirements for freshman, sophomore year in general education and your major. So those are the types of classes you're going to take. You're going to take general education classes. You're going to take your major preparation classes that are lower division freshman, sophomore year at the community college. So when you transfer, you're going to have 60 or more units. Now you're getting into the university on your third year, which is your junior year, right? So a transfer student basically finishes freshman, sophomore year, the first 2 years at the community college level, and then successfully transfers to the university. And then you only have 2 years at the university, your junior year, your senior year, and then you're good. Okay. It sounds easy. But it is a fucking, I'm going to be honest, it's a nightmare. The system is jacked. The community colleges do whatever the hell they want. The technology sucks.
What about those majors where like they only offer the classes in the fall and the spring? Have you seen that more often? What
you have
do you see that in?
And that's really the community college. So the community college, if the demand of student demand, meaning the enrollment in certain classes is higher, they'll offer it every semester. But if you get a little, if you have a one class that barely fills up, you know what I mean? The community college, they're a business too. You know what I mean? They can't just offer the class because you need it. They need to offer the class because 30 people need it. And if 30 people don't need it, they stagger it. And so that class that you might need for your particular major, say it's business administration, international business, for example, and you can't get that one business class, then you have to wait an extra semester. So there's all these barriers, right? There's all these kind of information that you don't know. And then the biggest thing that I've seen is the biggest error. Let's start with that, because the good stuff is, yeah, you can do it. The bad stuff is there's obstacles like crazy in front of you. So before I tell you how to solve this, I need to tell you the reality. There was a report that came out 2 years ago from the California State Auditor's Office. Okay. They audited like how many people are actually transferring, how many people, how long does it take and stuff like that. And man, no joke, it's bad. It's real bad. This is what they found. They found that most people that entered a community college in California that said, hey, I want to transfer. Okay. They first want to have, because there's other goals. So all the ones, and there's 1.5 million that will say they want to transfer every single year. And that 1.5 million, all of them thought they were going to get out in 2 years, right? Because most people think I'm going to go to college in 2 years. I don't think of years. It's classes, okay? So all of these people, right, out of all of them that wanted to transfer in 2 years, less than 5% were able to do it. So, okay, let that sink in for a second. That means if you're going to community college and you say, yeah, I'm going to be there for 2 years, you have a 5% chance of getting it done in 2 years. That's how many obstacles there are. And the reality is that, they don't measure it on 2 years. They'll never tell you their 2-year completion rate. Community colleges, they're infamous for that. They'll say our enrollment is up. They'll say that all day. Our enrollment's up. Our enrollment's up. It's great. And then I raised my hand and I said, what's your 2-year completion rate? Crickets. Crickets. Why? It's terrible. The completion rate is terrible. They have to stretch it to 4 years. So now students are thinking, okay, if I can't get out in 2 years, okay, how many people get out in 4 years? Okay, that were able to transfer. And they only found that 21% were able to do it after 4 years.
Wow.
Okay. That
We have
means
a little
79. Yeah, 79% of the population can't figure out how to transfer within 4 years. So that tells you how difficult it is. Okay. That's why we built Techo Guide, y'all. I'm gonna fix this problem for the system because the system ain't listening. Okay. They've been doing this for a very long time and it's hurting all of our students. And most of them, they leave the system with their hearts broken, their spirits broken, and it haunts them like the rest of their life. And I've seen it. I've seen over 100,000 students in my career. And me and my team here, we're adamant about fixing this problem, and we're going to fix it with or without the support of the system because you are the student and you need the advice to get through. So here's my first piece of advice. Make sure you register early. That is the number one key to getting the right classes. Everyone in community college gets a date of registration. Even if your date is a little late, you can still get most classes with the right advice. Okay. If your date is earlier because you either have a disability. If you have a disability, you want to tell the community college disability student services, you want to apply to their program. You want to use their services if you have some IEP from high school or anything like that, because that'll give you priority 0 registration, which means you now register a week before everybody else, but you still got to do it that week before everybody else. And again, early registration and have a great advisor. Okay. If you don't have an advisor, use our app, set an appointment with me as well. We'll drop my Calendly link in here for those of you that desperately need to see someone and get some advice. I don't care what school you're at. I'll tell you exactly what the hell to do and I'll figure it out for you. Okay. Try to use my app. I have an AI feature in there that we're programming every single month. So we're adjusting it often. Make sure you try to ask that any question in any language, right? And it'll begin answering it the way I would answer it. And so remember, registration early. So right now, let me give you an example. Right now we're almost in August. Okay, we're at the end of July, almost in August. School starts August 22nd. at the Los Rios district where I work. I work at Sacramento City College. I've been a counseling faculty member there for over 23 years. And so right now, if you want a class at either Sac City College, American River College, Folsom Lake College, or Cosumnes River College, because all four of those colleges are in one district called the Los Rios district, if you met someone like me, I can get you into most of the classes that you might be required, but not all of them that you need because you're registering a month before school starts. A month before school starts is already very late. Okay, think of this. Find out when the school is starting. Find out when the fall semester is starting for Sacramento City College. Back it up 3 months. That's when you should be signing up for classes. Back it up 4 months, and now you're way ahead of everybody else. Okay. Say you missed the fall semester. Say this semester is too close. You're not going to get what you need. That's fine. If you have a counselor like me, I'm going to find you something. We're going to work on something because it's important that you stay enrolled in the college. Maybe you're working on a minor. That's something, another subject that you're working on, or maybe you're working on some other general ed requirements, etc., or on another degree so that you walk away with 2 or 3 degrees. Okay. So you meet with someone like me, you got to find yourself a good counselor. If your counselor sucks, go find another counselor. I hate to say it. There is terrible advisors out there. It is ridiculous how many people get jacked a year of your life, 2 years of your life, because they're not getting the firm advice of what you need to take to get this bachelor, to transfer and get this bachelor's degree. So do it early, get a good counselor. Okay. Once you have those two, you need to bug the counselor. So the counselor's never going to call you. I will never call you. You have to call me. Why? There's thousands of people on the list. You know what I mean? And so you have to be proactive. And Alexa, I think you were pretty proactive when you were in school, right?
Yes, yeah, I was. And then we have somebody, Annie Ruak, on the chat. She's saying, "Where were you when I was in high school? Wish I stuck with education." 52 years old here. And Carol, welcome back to the live. She's asking,
What's
"What do you
up?
think is the problem?"
Yeah, I mean, I share this often. You're talking about a massive system with close to 2 million people, students in the system any given year. It was built, decades ago. It's a public school system. The funding is there, but then it's not when you really need to overhaul it. And then, at the end of the day, it's the funding formula. I hate to say it, colleges and universities are not paid to graduate people. I hate to say it, y'all, but it's the truth. They are not paid to graduate you. They are paid to enroll you. Enroll you means just the first 3 weeks of class. After the first 3 weeks of class, they're not making any more money. So some places you see the huge dropout rate after that first 3-4 weeks of class, after that ad deadline. That ad deadline is census. Census means that's payday for the college. As long as those seats are full that first 3-4 weeks, they got paid. After that, they don't care if the seats are empty. Now, well, let me take that back. Some people do care. Okay, I care.
Right. Let's not
Care a
forget about
lot.
the ones that care.
Right? I do have some colleagues, but I also have some colleagues that don't give a shit. Okay, and so one of my colleagues put it this way to me. He goes, Mauricio, so you're telling me if after the first month, if they all drop out and I only grade one paper, everyone gets paid. Oh yeah, that's it. So some instructors, they don't want to grade 300 papers. They want to grade 2 papers at the end of the semester. So what do some of those haters do? They start leaning into you and just hope you quit. So that's the reality. This is adult, hood, right? This is adults, education. And so what you have to fight when you're at community college. You have to advocate for yourself. And if someone's messing with you, right, you need to file grievances. You need to, politely and professionally in an email, send it out, carbon copy that person that you have the issue with, carbon copy their boss and the other boss. Okay. If you don't know, we can tell you who those bosses are because you need to be able to hold people accountable. And that's the other thing. There is no accountability, Carol. So to answer your question, who's going to get fired if there's 100 less graduates? Nobody. You know what I mean? Who's going to get fired if, you know, the budget's a little under? Nobody, right? In higher education, I hate to say it, there's very, very little accountability. It's very, very political. Lots of things to fix, but you fix that funding formula. You base funding on graduation rate, you will immediately see the change within a year. But you know, a lot of that's holding people accountable. Anyways,
We
back
have
to
one more
transfer, right?
question.
Okay,
We have
one
one
more
more
question.
question.
I'm going to get back to transfer.
Any advice for recent graduates to find a job? Soul is asking the question. Soul.
So, okay, gotta make an appointment with me. Let's chat. I'm gonna try to answer it. You know, I need a lot more information. You know, what you major in, what kind of industry you want to get into. At the end of the day, it's really self-analyzing with the help of others, like someone like me. You know, I'll tell you what I see. After you tell me what you've done, I'll tell you what behaviors are not adding to your success in getting hired. You're not going to get hired everywhere. I mean, man, I remember I used to burn my denial letters in the barbecue pit to let them float up into the sky to the ancestors because I would be so disappointed that I'd, you know, shed tears, you know, and just trying to get my first professional job, my second professional job. And even when I had already shitload of experience, I would apply to higher education out here and I got denied like 9 times. And I even told my wife, we were already at the point of building a lowrider shop so I can move back into like building lowriders and mechanics and giving up on my master's degree because I was there, you know, and it was just some advice. I came to terms. I said, I'm doing something wrong. Like I'm a hard worker. I have a degree and something's not, you know, fitting in. And it took me a lot of mentorship from some of my mentors to really break down and see what was the issue, right? And then they would coach me and then they would sponsor me. And when they were coaching me and sponsoring is they'd put their name behind my name. And that is what a lot of us need, especially if we're first generation in our family, because we don't have a whole lot of professionals in our lives. We don't know the pressures of how do you get in and that kind of thing. So, anyways, back to transfer. So, transferring 60 transferable units. That's what you're looking for. If you're going to UC or CSU, you're looking for 60 transferable units. One thing that the system did finally get one thing right is they created one general ed pattern for transfer in California. Okay. It's called the CalGETC, CalGETC. Okay. The CalGETC is the one pattern that you finish for general ed. It's about 34 units. Okay. Those 34 units are more than half of the 60 units that you need. So you need those 34 CalGETC units and then you need your major preparation. And let me get what's major preparation. Well, if you were a business student, you would do 2 accounting classes, 2 business classes, 2 economics classes, 2 math classes. Okay. If you were an engineering major, you do probably 4 math classes, you know, 2 chemistry classes, 3 physics classes, 4 engineering classes, and I'm sure I'm missing 1 or 2 of them. But you see the preparation is different. If you were going into like healthcare and health science, you would do like 2 biology classes, 2 chemistry classes, psychology, cultural anthropology, and nutrition. And that's the major preparation for someone going into health science. All the major prep is different. Okay. So you got to, that's why you definitely have to use resources like TechoGuide, and you definitely need to see a counselor, because if a student tells me I want to go from Sac City College to Sac State and I want to major in electrical engineering, okay, I got to break it down into classes and make sure that they're going to do the right major and the right general ed for those. But if the student immediately the next day says, well, you know what, electrical engineering, no, now I'm doing transfer and I'm going psychology and I want to go to UC Davis, that the general ed stayed the same. The 34 units of general ed stayed the same, but the major requirements are different. And so we would then switch the classes to the major requirement of the classes that to get you into UC Davis now. And then if like tomorrow you change your mind again, you said, no, you know, I'm going to go move back home to San Diego. So I'm going from Sacramento City College and I'm now going to go to San Diego State University. We do the calculation all over again because the major requirements might be different, because the general ed will stay the same. That's, remember that good thing, the CalGETC general education, those 34 units, that's going to stay the same. That's cool. It's the major that changes, the major prep. So you can change your major at literally any time at a community college. Okay, anytime. Don't let that, oh, I'm going to change my major, I probably should. Do it. If you feel it deep down inside that it's time to change your major and move on another bachelor's degree. Okay. Now, community college pretty much is going to be very, very affordable or free. If you get a promise grant for the California community colleges, I would like 80% of students get a promise grant. That means it's tuition free. As long as you pass your classes and not fail everything and not, be a jerk off, they're going to keep helping you with the promise grant to at least pay your tuition. So that you think of, I pretty much every family I work with, I say, listen, just apply for financial aid. They'll figure out if you're going full time, your first time in college, it's going to be free. Okay. And so those first 2 years, it's tuition free. Now you still have to pay for books. Okay. If your class requires a book, hopefully you're signing up early for classes with free textbooks, because there's classes that use open educational resources. Basically, that means free textbooks. They don't charge you for the textbook. So remember, early registration. Know when the dates are every single year so that you can maximize that. Eventually you're going to hit the 60 units. Do you have to be full-time in community college? No. You can be part-time. If you're working, you're a parent, you're just busy, or just didn't go well, you just want to take it easy, you can go part-time at a community college. You can go full-time at a community college. Once you have those 20 to 25 classes, which equal 60 or more units, now you're ready to transfer to, say, a state university. Cal Poly Pomona, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly, Humboldt, San Diego State, anything with state or CSU or a Cal Poly, those are all part of the 23 CSU campuses. Okay. You can also transfer to a UC. Now, UC wants a little bit higher GPA. Minimum GPA for UC, bare minimum on paper, it says 2.5. But I'll be honest with you, UCs, they're competitive. Bare minimum says 2.5 on paper, but most UCs admit students on average at the 3.0 or higher GPA. So UCs do have a higher GPA threshold than the California State University. The CSU has a lower GPA threshold. Now, you got to be cautious. You got to, because at each school, either the school is fully, like say it's a very popular school, a really, 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 really popular California State University is Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Okay. Another super popular university in the CSU level is like San Diego State University. Okay. At the UC level, well, you have the traditional UC Berkeley, UCLA. Those are like the top, and top of what, I don't really know. But what I'm saying is, U.S. News and World Report, which all these other reports that can put out information. What I try to tell first gen students, right? If you're first gen like I was, you're the first. It doesn't matter where you go. Get the damn degree. Try to get it from the best place or the place you want it to get it from. But it doesn't matter where you go. You're first gen. You just need to get across the finish line. Okay. Once you get across the finish line, now that next generation is going to have the income and the capacity and knowledge of college survival because you did it, that now they can go wherever the hell they want. Okay. For you, if you're that, I've met students where like it's UCLA or nothing. And I'm like, you're an idiot. UCLA has this percentage of an admit rate, which means you're going to quit college if UCLA doesn't take you. You're an idiot. You probably shouldn't go on with higher education. This is real life. You need to have all kinds of options open. So you need to roll with the punches. Maybe they admit you, maybe not. What I tell my students is this: if they don't admit me, it's because they don't deserve me. And you go on to somewhere else. Okay. If you have that mentality, you'll finish. Okay, because you'll bob and weave and you'll make the decisions necessary for you to get that degree ultimately. At the end of the day, I'll be honest, I have a master's degree. Okay. I have an ABD, which all but dissertation. No one has ever asked me where the hell they're from. I also have a bachelor's degree and I also have an associate's degree. No one has ever asked me where are they from. The only thing, or no one has ever asked me the GPA ever, because it doesn't matter. What matters is, did you finish? That's the key word there. Did you finish? So you always just got to go where you're accepted, where you can afford it, and where you can get done. Okay. Now, a little bit more differences between UCs and CSUs, right? Again, for CSUs, some schools are impacted. Okay. What that means is they get too many applications of super high qualified individuals way beyond the minimum threshold. Okay. When a school, the whole school is impacted, and San Luis Obispo, Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, one example, every major, art major, theater major, accounting major, it doesn't matter what major, is full. And it's full, and they get applicants, way more applications than they need. Those types of schools that get to declare impaction, official impaction, they raise the requirements, higher GPA requirements, higher class requirements, more math, more, whatever. Usually it's more math and higher GPA, and that scares off a lot of applicants. So they try to control that by raising the requirements because they don't need that many people. So they get to pick from like the top, okay, of applicants. So some schools are impacted, the whole school, not a lot of them, but some are. Then you have some schools that are super, super popular, but they don't want to say they're impacted because they don't want to go through all the bullshit you got to go through for that. So what they'll do is they're highly selective. Okay. Same thing. They get to raise GPA requirements. They get to raise requirements to get into the major because they're highly, highly selective. Now, some schools have majors that are wide open because they can accommodate people, and some schools have majors like one major, two majors, or three majors that's super highly selective. Let me give you an example. San Jose State University engineering, that's like a top program, okay, in Silicon Valley. So they raise the requirements, okay, to make sure that they are pulling the highest quality students because they're getting all those applications. But you can go to San Jose State University with a different major and get in with a much lower GPA and much less preparation. Now, you're not going to be an engineer because it's just this major, but you can easily get into San Jose with a theater major, social work major, though ethnic studies, those kinds of majors that are not full. You'll be able to get in, you'll be able to graduate from those types of universities. It's just you're not going to be the engineering unless you apply and get accepted into the engineering program with the elevated requirements. Other majors, like out here at Sacramento, we have Sacramento State University, Sac State, which is part of the CSU system. They have highly selective majors as well. Business administration is one of them. Computer science is up there as well, gaining selectivity, which means they're starting to raise GPA requirements, kind of have a cutoff GPA. For example, the bare minimum GPA to get into any California State University is 2.0. That was a shock to me when I was a student. I'm like, wait, all they want is C's or better to get in? That is true. You can get C's or just C's. Say you got all C's in 60 units, okay, like I did. I think I got a couple B's. But say you got all C's, okay? Cal Poly isn't going to take you. Cal Poly is selective. So you have all C's. You're not competing at the AB level, okay? But Sonoma State will accept you. So will CSU Monterey Bay. So will 20 of the CSUs, Fresno State, Bakersfield, they'll take you. Why? They're not this packed with applications. They fill, but they fill at a much slower rate, right? So, San Diego State, well, of course, San Diego. I want to be an Aztec. I want to live on the beach. I want to be near Tijuana. That's a hot spot, of course. Who doesn't want to live in San Diego? That's why San Diego, great school too, but they have way more applications than, say, Bakersfield, CSU Bakersfield. CSU Bakersfield, no one's really rushing to move there unless you're already from there, right? CSU Bakersfield, hey, Sacramento, we're not a hot spot, but we're Sac. We're the capital of the fourth largest economy in the world. That in itself tells you a lot. But you get what I'm saying. It's based on demand. So sometimes you'll have a hard time transferring into a school if it's in super high demand. Okay. So recap, how do you transfer from community college to university? You got to finish at least 60 transferable units, For a CSU, a minimum 2.0 GPA, but for some schools that are impacted or highly selective, you need a much higher GPA. For UCs, bare minimum GPA is 2.5 GPA, but most UCs are well over 3.0 in admissions in terms of GPA because UCs are highly selective as well. Some UCs are more highly selective than others. UC Merced, down towards the bottom, you can probably get in with the 2.5, 2.6. UC Berkeley, yeah, no chance. You're not getting in with the 2.5, 2.6. You better be pulling like a 3.5 and up kind of thing. Now, the beauty of transferring, let me tell you why it saved my ass. The beauty of transferring is when you go to community college and you finish 60 units, it erases your past. Okay, let me rephrase that. When I was in high school, I was screwing around. I was fighting. I had to fight. I had to survive. So that didn't mean reading books. That means working. That means not getting punked on the streets. That means protecting my family. Okay. I was barely passing. I was getting C's, D's, sometimes F's, and I'd repeat them, whatever, in high school. I never took the SAT. I never took the ACT. And all the counselors would always talk about those kinds of things that I'd overhear to other people, never really to me. And I assumed I wasn't going to be able to go to college. And so I luckily ran into the right people many, many, many years ago who said, no, dude, anyone can go to community college. And one of them told me, when you finish those 20 classes, no one cares where you went to high school. No one's even going to ask you if you graduated. No one's going to ask you any of those high school grades, any of those high school tests. All of that is gone. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, what about like all my suspensions? That was I think my question to my old mentor was, what about all the suspensions? Don't they have a record of that? They're like, Mauricio, dude, no one gives a shit. You just have to go to community college, behave, finish the classes, and it's gonna erase your high school. And it did. And I tell students that all the time, especially my homie students that are like, that I could tell, okay, I look at their high school transcript, it looks terrible. You can see the shame in their eyes. And I'm like, listen, this will burn, one of these days when you finish your 60 units, your 20 classes at a community college. We'll burn this one together just so that you can let go of the trauma that's been holding you back from high school, because high school shouldn't hold you back. When you go to community college, you can completely erase that high school past. So if you have some people in your family that would totally have potential to survive the community college, it's time to have that conversation with them that, let's turn them on to our content, follow us on Techo Guide, etc., etc. Alexa, I think you were a first-time freshman, right? When you finished high school, you went in as a freshman.
Yes, I went in first year, and I
So
ended
you
up.
had to take the SAT or the
I,
ACT, one of those tests, yes?
yeah, the SAT, sadly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And you had to take the right classes in high school, like college prep classes or honors class, those types of classes, right, to get you in?
Yes. To kind
Yeah,
of stand out as an applicant. Yes.
yeah. And
Environmental
then you had to
science.
do extracurricular activities and shit, right?
Yes, a lot of
Yeah.
them.
You know how
Mm-hmm.
many extracurricular activities you have to do if you're a transfer student?
None. Zero.
Now, let me rephrase that. Let me rephrase that. Be a little bit more exact, okay? For California State University, CSU, the 23 universities, zero. They don't care. They just want to see that you have the general ed, the major preparation, as high grades as you can get, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your 60 units. That's it. That's all they're going to evaluate you on, etc. The University of California, they don't want SAT, they don't want any of that. They don't want no high school drama. Once you finish those 60 units, when you apply to the UC, they do have essays that you write. Okay, so you do have to write an essay to the University of California, whatever campus you're going to, whether it's Santa Cruz, whether it's Irvine, whatever. There's an essay part of it. Okay, so they do at least still require essays at 9 UCs. None of the 23 CSUs do. And again, none of your past. None. If you're a transfer student, you don't have to show them anything from high school. Okay. Now, after another way to get into a UC. Okay, so check this out. because some people are like die hard, they want UC. That's cool. Here down the street over here, we have UC Davis, okay, close to SAC. Top UC. I love Davis. It's fun as hell. Okay. The things that people you learn there are incredible. I just love learning about it. Um, it's a top school, so a lot of people try to apply it like you did, Alexa, out of freshman. They'll apply out of high school to try to get in, and they get denied, even though they're really, really top performers. But if you're die hard like that, for the University of California, you can also do this thing called the transfer admission guarantee. Okay, the transfer admission guarantee means that you're working with the counselor, and after you finish like 30 units, which is 1 year at community college, you get to write a contract to 6 of the 9 UCs. Okay, that means 6 of the 9 UCs. If you meet the right GPA requirement, they will guarantee your admission to that university after you finish the 60 units. So you go to a community college, you meet with the counselor, you tell them, hey, I heard about this guarantee thing. They call it the TAG, the TAG, transfer admission guarantee. And it's only for the University of California. And it's only for 6 of those schools, not all of them, like UC Berkeley, UCLA, and I think UC San Diego. They said, no, they're not going to do that. But all the other UCs said, yeah, we'll do a transfer guarantee. So let me give you an example. So a lot of my students that come to Sac City, they're like, hey, I do want to get into Davis, and their GPA is fairly good. They've been good, either they were good in high school and now they're still good in college, or they were terrible in high school, and then all of a sudden they turned it on, and in college they're having a high GPA. If you have a 3.2 GPA in your first 30 units of college work, now community college work, you can sign a transfer guarantee to 6 of the 9 UCs. Okay. Then you got to finish the other 30 units. So there's your 30 and 30, there's your 60 units. Okay. Those, as long as you kept that 3.2 GPA or higher, they will guarantee your admission. So remember those essays I talked about that you got to write for the UC? If you have a transfer guarantee, you can write one sentence for those essays because you have a guarantee. Okay. So if you have a high GPA, you get a chance to do a guarantee to 6 of the 9 UCs. Okay. If you have a low GPA, then yeah, you better kick ass on those essays because they will use those essays, the UC will, in terms of admission. In some cases, it does depend on the major. Some majors allow lower GPAs than the 3.2. So I've seen as low as like 2.9, 3.0.
We have a question. Why not
higher.
UCLA? Why is UCLA not in there in TAG?
Because remember the 3.2 GPA, almost every applicant that UCLA gets is 3.7 and higher. That's why they don't need to go that low. If they go that low, their admissions office has to process 1 million applications. You know what I mean? If they stay high, like 3.7, they're processing, a couple 100,000 applications as opposed to 1 million. Again, at the end of the day, it's their capacity. If they're getting 3.7, 3.8, 3.9, 4.0 GPAs, I wouldn't do a tag either. 3.2, no way. That opened the floodgates. You know what I mean? And you can't accommodate that many people. You just false promises. You know what I mean? That's just bad to do. It's bad karma. So that's really why it's a numbers game. Okay, so think about this: that the more numbers they get, technically slightly harder to get in, more selective. The least numbers they get, come on in, buddy. Think of it that way. If they're calling you to come in, is because they need students. Okay, because at the end of the day, remember, every college and university is paid on enrollment. Now,
yes,
tag UC.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to be clear here. Tag is UC. The CSU, okay, the California State University, they try to do things as well, and a lot of things fail. But what they did is they created the transfer degree. Okay, so let me use my campus as an example. At my campus, Sacramento City College, you can go to any college and transfer into any major at any UC, even though the major might not exist at your community college. That's weird. Okay, what do you mean? Let me give you an example. Woodland College. Woodland College is kind of like a small community college out here in Woodland. If a student goes there and says, I want to be an electrical engineer, Woodland does not have engineering major at all because they're too small. Okay, when a campus is too small, they can't afford a certain majors, right? And engineering is a very expensive major for a college to have. They don't have enough students majoring in engineering to offer an engineering department. So a student can go to Woodland for 60 units, take all the math, all the physics they need, all the, all the general education they need, and transfer to UC Davis in engineering, or transfer to Sac State in engineering, or San Jose State in engineering. Even though Woodland does not have engineering, you can go to Woodland College and then do your 60 units and transfer into an engineering bachelor's degree. And you can do that with any major. Okay, any major. If the community college doesn't have it, that's okay. They have the general ed and they have some of the major preparation. So you'll do those until you have 60 units, and then you'll transfer to the university that does have your major at the bachelor's degree level. Okay. So the CSU, they did this thing called transfer degree. Great. But it's a little misleading. Okay. A transfer degree only exists for the most popular majors, it does not exist for every major. Okay. So think about that for a second. You can go to Sacramento City College, where I'm at, and you can transfer to UC Davis. And at UC Davis, there's 100 different majors. Okay. But at Sac City College, there's only about 20 transfer degrees. Where are the other 80? We can't, at the City College, we can't make transfer degrees for every major. That's impossible. So we'll only make it for the most popular. Okay. And so you gotta always, again, you gotta find yourself a good counselor. If that's non-existent, get on our platform, start asking our AI, do your research with the university as well, because you need this kind of advice. That way you know exactly what requirements you have to fulfill. And remember, they're based on the system you're going to, UC or CSU. They're based on the major you're pursuing, okay, at the bachelor's degree. And then we'll backtrack and we'll say, okay, at this college for your major, there's this thing called a transfer degree. Let's make sure we do that one as well. That is the closest you can come to a guaranteed transfer program offered by the California State University. It's not a guaranteed transfer program, even though it says a degree with a guarantee. That is truly misleading. It's a degree. They'll guarantee you a spot in one of the 23 schools, not usually the one you want. Okay. So think about that. You've been, hoping to get in to Long Beach, but because of that degree, they guaranteed you admission to, I don't know, CSU Monterey Bay. That in itself, right, is misleading because it's not a guarantee to that exact school. You still might get into that exact school. It says degree with a guarantee, but it's a guarantee that you'll get in somewhere in our system. We just can't really promise you it's going to be the right one until we do the evaluation and then determine whether you are eligible for the one that you want. And so again, that's the closest. People, they say guarantee. Well, yeah, there's a lot of loopholes. There's a lot of potential for error. Every year it changes, every single year. So if you want to know like the latest tag for the UC, just Google search tag matrix, and it should bring up the latest PDF kind of Excel spreadsheet file. Man, good luck reading that. Okay, it's gonna be a nightmare. We'll help you through that as well. We'll provide some advice on the matrix in another show. Okay, when do you apply? So here's the thing. It depends. You got to try and figure out with your advisors or with Techo Guide, when is the semester I'm going to be admitted to the university? So say right now, a brand new freshman at City College, first time, first year, and I'm taking 15 units this semester, 15 units in spring, another 15 in fall, and another 15 in spring. I'm going to try and do it in 2 years, which is 4 semesters. That means I would be getting into the university in a fall semester. if you're entering in August, September, that's fall semester. If you're entering the university in a fall semester, that is when most universities accept. Actually, all of them do. Let me just take that back. All of them accept students for fall semester. If you're applying for entering in August/September, you have to apply almost a year in advance, 10 months in advance. While you're in the middle of your third semester, you're already applying to the university. So the university is judging you really only off of your first year. Okay, they're grading you off your GPA. They're looking to see what classes you already finished. And then in your third semester, you're already applying to the university. You're not even done with those classes yet. And you're applying to the university system to try and get in the following fall. You're even going to tell them the classes you're planning on taking in spring semester. Okay, that it gets even crazier because that's where you really need advice is you got to make sure you're going to graduate from the community college, get a degree. You got to make sure that you get a petition in to get a degree, all of that in your last semester. So there's all these, like I said, barriers and steps that nobody tells you about. Okay, so make sure you're asking. And if someone isn't helping you, you find somebody else that's going to help you. Ask your friends, watch our content, um, and schedule your appointments with us as well. We're just about to launch our newest update to our appointment feature on TechoGuide. So give me about a week and you'll be able to download TechoGuide and schedule your appointments there with some of our advisors. Remember, everything we do is free, okay? Completely free to the public because we give a shit. All right. I see some other questions. So back to you, Alexa. Did you have transfer friends when you were going through your school? Did you meet some students that came in like third year while you were at San Jose State?
Yes, I did. It was very difficult for them because a lot of people had already found community, and at some universities, they're actually not accepting of transfer people. They discriminate. They look at you like you got like a pass or something, like you did not work hard enough. There's a lot of pushback.
You know, I'm glad you said that because remember, so there's people at the university that were there since they were freshmen. So they were there 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and then you entered, right, as a transfer student in third year, right? So that's what you're saying is like those people that have been there for 3 years, you kind of know what's up. You know the university, you know all the ins and outs. And then you get this transfer student that comes in. Yeah, they saved a lot of money, but you're right. It's going to be a culture shock because that new institution, that third year student doesn't know like admissions and records, financial aid processes, the software they use to add classes. When do you need it? It's similar to the community college, but it is not exact, right?
No.
And so also advising, like at the university level, you don't really have a counselor like you do at a community college. At a community college, you get one counselor that kind of knows everything. At the university, no, you get like a major advisor in the major department, which is usually a professor of the division that you're in, whether your major, say you're an economics major, it'd be an economics professor, or a general education kind of advisor that's in admissions and records. And so a lot of things change, right? And where do you remember some of the community colleges that because you were at San Jose State and some of the people that transferred in, where were they from?
From De Anza High Community College, from Evergreen Community College, from
all in the Bay Area.
San Jose Community College,
Yeah, San Jose City College, Evergreen Valley College, De Anza College, Foothill College, Mission College. In the Bay Area, you got like 20 community colleges, and a lot of them end up at San Jose State, San Francisco State, East Bay, Cal State East Bay. All of those are CSUs. Right. Awesome. So remember, what do you need? You need to go to a community college. Can you go to more than one? Yes. Can you go to more than two? Yes. My brother-in-law, true story. My brother-in-law just finished a master's in statistics. Okay. Big time. He works in high technology. He East Bay, Cal State East Bay, master's in statistics. Before that, and he works for a big tech company. Before that, he finished a bachelor's degree in statistics. Okay. And before transferring into statistics, he went to at least, 8 community colleges. No joke. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you take 2 classes at this college, 3 classes at that college, 10 classes at that college, 5 classes over here, as long as all of them equal the 20 that you need, the general ed and the major, you're gonna get in. It doesn't matter that you went to 10, 15, 20 community colleges, okay? It's the classes that you took. So at one college, I took accounting 1, and at this other college, I took accounting 509 and English 6, and then I moved because I got married, and I ended up at another community college and took all these other classes. What we do as counselors is we'll take all those transcripts, we'll start moving classes, determining which requirements you have done, which would you have not for the goal that you currently have. Okay. And then we tell you this is what's missing and this is what you got to take. And as long as you do it the way we tell you and apply to the university when we tell you, you're pretty much going to get in, to be honest with you, because I try not to advise for failure. I advise for success. And so the thing is, you want to make sure that you understand nothing's guaranteed ever, really, right? But we're going to try and make it as close to guarantee as possible for you. How else do you keep it cheap? Stay local. Don't move. As soon as you move, it costs you money. Okay, so that's the truth. Unless you're in danger, unless you're in a bad situation, I would seriously try to stay stable if you're stable. If you're unstable, then yeah, get the hell out. Go to somewhere. I had to get the hell out. I had to leave. I couldn't stay home. It was dangerous for me at that time in my life in the county that I lived with the things I was doing. And so it was either that. So me, I had to go, okay, to stay safe. And in some families, unfortunately, in some lives, that's true. You have to go. Just know that wherever you go in California, there's 115 colleges. Okay. They're all over the place. You can go to any one of them. You could even go to one that's hella far and just take online classes because it doesn't matter that you don't live in the town. You know what I mean? So say you live out in the boonies, out somewhere hella far. I grew up in King City, California. That's way out in the middle of Salinas Valley. The next college is like an hour away, Hartnell. Okay. Go to a center if they have a center. Some colleges have these little, smaller campuses, like one building kind of thing, set of offices, center in a community that's like not a big city. Sacramento City College, for example, has a center in West Sacramento, so you can take some classes at West Sacramento. And we also have a center at Davis, on the UC Davis campus, but is part of the community college system. So we offer classes there too. American River College has a campus on Mather, has another, I forget the other campus, Natomas campus over in different parts of the neighborhood in Sacramento. Folsom Lake has a couple centers. So try to, if you're into going in person, go to the centers or go to the main campus. If you don't care for in person, now you have way more options because now you could really take classes, a combination of classes at a number of community colleges and nothing can stop you. You know what I mean? If you don't have to be in person, you have a huge advantage nowadays because I'll be honest with everyone, COVID changed the education game. It really did. I've never seen so many online classes being offered at community colleges since COVID. We are not going back to in person 100% of the time. Those days are gone. Okay. As students, those of you that are younger and have been already online, quite a bit, you have a huge advantage because now you're not limited by the college where I work and the classes that I have. You can take classes at any of the institutions that are offering them online. So again, huge advantage to those of you that are newer. All right, everyone. We're about a minute short. I mean, a minute to call time. So thank you for joining us. Please tell your friends and family about Techo Guide. Follow us on all social media platforms. We also have a Spanish channel now as well. Techo Guide _Espanol for those Spanish speakers out there, and we're slowly adding more and more content to that so that we can catch up to everything we do in English as well. And so. Any other final questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll make sure that we add an episode where we can answer those because there's lots to talk about. But again, today, transfer. Can anyone do it? Absolutely. You just got to make sure you have the right classes, you have the right advisor, and you know the right dates. Alexa, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Mauricio. Thank you so much.
All right,
Bye.
everyone. You have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night. Bye.
College instead of AP, the advanced placement. The first reason is people are trying to tell you that you need to do AP or IB, that kind of stuff, so that you can earn college credit while you're still in high school. But what they forget to tell you is that's not the only way to do it. All of you high school students in California can start taking community college classes at any of the 116 California community colleges while you're still in high school, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, or 12th grade. And best of all, it's gonna be free.
Well, you know what? I have better fun something than that. Fuck y'all, that boy. Not do what you want. That's right.